morning, everyone. Welcome to the 2025 Society for Equity Neuroscience meeting from sunny Charleston, South Carolina. This is a society that celebrates brain health across communities and across lifespan. My name is Parneet Grewal. I am an assistant professor of neurology at Medical University of South Carolina.
And I'm Karen Orjuela, Associate Professor at the University of Chicago and Chief Community Neurology Transformation Officer. And I'm very glad and very happy to be here with all of you.
We are very excited to welcome our 2025 Hall of Fame inductees for the Society today. These are the individuals that have made seminal career contributions to health equity in neuroscience. We have them here with us today not only to celebrate their careers, but to learn from them. What were some of the lessons they learned along the way? What career transformations they did, and how did they end up on the Hall of Fame? We have first with us Dr. Robert Adams. He is the Distinguished Professor Emeritus of Neurology at Medical University of South Carolina and co-director of the South Carolina Alzheimer's Network. Welcome, Dr. Adams.
Thank you very much, Barney, and good morning to everyone. It's an honor to be here. And I'm especially proud to be part of this gathering because of all of the accomplishments and all of the work that people have made and put into this and what this represents. I don't think I would have appreciated all of that without seeing it all brought together and put out there in such a dynamic way. So I'm very excited to be here.
Next, we have Dr. Cheryl Bushnell. She's a professor of neurology, vice chair of research, and director of the Center for Transformative Stroke Care at Wake Forest University. Welcome, Dr. Bushnell.
Thank you. I'll echo Dr. Adams. It's really an honor to be here and in the same room as all these illustrious stroke neurologists and other neurologists. And really, this focus on equity is so important. So it's just great to be here.
Thank you. To my left, I have Dr. Moira Kapral. So she's a professor of medicine and chair of the Department of Medicine at the University of Toronto. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. It's really a pleasure to be here and an honor to be here with all of you.
And I have Dr. Morgenstern, professor of neurology, emergency medicine, and neurosurgery at the University of Michigan.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you.
And I have Dr. Vickrey, professor and system chair of neurology at the Equity School of Medicine at Mount Sinai. Thank you for being here.
We are so very excited to have all of you here with us. I just wanted to say that I am so honored to be sitting amongst all of you and having the opportunity to talk to you and learn from you. So let's start with our questions. So to start off, I would actually love to learn about your professional journeys. What led you to become clinician scientist in stroke, and what pivotal experience or person led you to pursue neuroscience equity research? We'll start off with Dr. Adams.
Well, thank you, Parneet. I got started in my professional world as an engineer, actually. And as engineers, as we all know, they're problem solvers. And along the way, not very long into my career, I became aware of the fact that the world is full of people with problems. Some of them are big problems, and some of them are huge problems that involve medical care and then that threaten their day-to-day existence and their health and their lives. And I had to make a decision. I could help provide telephone care to the people in the Midwest of the United States. My job was with AT&T. Or I could say to myself, by the time I'm age 50, would I feel better if I had worked in medical research and had done something which really benefited people's lives? And I was 23 at the time, and I gave myself that period of time, and that led me to leave engineering, go into medical school. Took 10 years to retool, not 4 years, took 10 years. But by the time I was well into my 30s, I was well on my way. And as I told us in the convocation today, I was able to share the podium with the director of NHLBI, National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute, and present a presentation on the study which was the beginning of the end for stroke in children with sickle cell disease. We had laid out the methods for clinicians and families to screen for stroke risk and to discover when it was high enough to treat them and prevent the stroke from taking place. The numbers were pretty much astronomical, 92% reduction with treatment. The study was stopped early by National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute because it was considered unethical to continue with such positive results. So I didn't think about it much at the time, but I wasn't yet 50, and of course I wanted to keep going, and did keep going. And one of the great things about this meeting today is seeing what all people do. Well, you hear a lot about silos and how silos are such bad things that we want to work against. But in fact, we all did a lot of work in silos. That's the reason why we're successful. You have to work in a silo to some degree to focus your efforts and to get things done. But you also need to work with other people and connect to them in such a way that you know what's going on outside of the silo. And I've learned an awful lot just in the last few hours.
That is so great to hear, Dr. Adams. Just hearing you talk today in the conference, it was so powerful to see how you move the needle for stroke in children and what all you have done for those children with sickle cell disease. So thank you so much for all the work that you've done and that you continue to do. Next, we have Dr. Bushnell. So, Dr. Bushnell, your work for stroke in women has been groundbreaking. You have sought to identify biological markers for stroke in women and also the effect of hormonal replacement therapy. And not only that, you actually led the first ever NIH-funded conference for stroke in women. What made you passionate about this research focus, and what do you see as a future for stroke care in women in U.S. and worldwide?
Well, again, thanks for the honor of being here. I would say a really pivotal moment in my career was as a third-year neurology resident. And you know how these days we get a lot of invitations to write reviews for journals that we often ignore. And so my mentor, who became my mentor, said, "Hey, would you be interested in writing this summary of stroke in women in in a journal that you've never heard of and I've never seen again?" And so I did that, and I delved into the literature, and I found almost really a pathetic amount of information on stroke in women. And so there was a lot of information about heart disease in women at the time. This was in the mid to late 90s. And so it was pretty clear that this was an area that needed further research. And so that really motivated me, motivated my K Award, K23 that I applied for through NINDS, and then a number of other grants and studies that I've done in a variety of areas within women's health. And so that's just been sort of the story of how I got started, just understanding where the gaps were and then trying to do what I could to understand them and move the field forward. And then I guess to answer the second part of your question about where are things headed, I think we understand a lot about the women's issues in stroke. I think we could do more interventions that would not only help women but also men and families. And so I think that could be the next thing we do. I also think that screening and primary prevention is really critical, and we know what some of the risk-enhancing features in women are. So I think that would be another thing, a place where I think we could really move the field forward and improve outcomes in women.
Thank you, Dr. Bushnell. Your reply actually highlights how mentorship is so important in our field and underscores the importance of it, and how we need to move the needle for stroke in women. We actually should be focusing at it from different domains, primary prevention, but also other interventions and screening. So thank you so much for highlighting that.
Yes.
And I think that in alignment with Dr. Bushnell's sort of like incredible strides in women's health, we have Dr. Kapral with us as well. What do you think is still missing in the research landscape when it comes to addressing disparities in women's health? And what do you think the top 10 priorities in the 10 years that are ahead of us should be in this kind of big field?
Thanks. Well, I won't give you 10 priorities, Mia, but I do want to really recognize Dr. Bushnell, who's been a true leader in this field and more than a decade ago published recommendations and guidelines around what we know about stroke in women. And so we've learned a lot about what should be done in terms of stroke care, but we also know that it's not currently provided for women or for people generally. So I think we still have work to do in terms of quality improvement and just taking what we already know and making sure that it's delivered to everybody. I think the other area that we need to work on, as Dr. Bushnell has also outlined, is really figuring out why some of these differences occur. And for women in particular, it looks like many of their differences in care and outcomes relate to the fact that they're older and are more frail at the time of stroke. And so looking at ways that we can optimize care for those populations, maybe there's prehabilitation, better fitness for the population, better strategies for helping people in older age to age well, more social supports. So I think those are the things that are really going to help people do better after stroke.
Thank you. Thank you. And Dr. Morgenstern, you interviewed me for a vascular neurology fellowship. And I remember you explained this winter sport that I never heard about, that was curling. I'm from Colombia, so I never had that experience. But I also remember from that encounter with you that you really showed me how much your work on disparities research and health equity meant to you. And I had no really idea as a trainee of what does it mean to do health equity research. So I kind of like reflected on that. And this is kind of like my question is like, how can we create that framework for trainees just to be aware of this area of health equity research, and how can we start early?
I remember interviewing you, and that was during the days when I decided that the key to success in my family was having our youngest daughter go to the Olympics as a curling champion. And I never once got her on the ice, but she still talks about her career in curling, so it may still happen. So I think that, the framework of health equity has to come from people's recognition that they are a human being on this planet, and that everybody in this planet deserves equal respect and understanding, and that we all need each other to get along, to succeed and get out of difficult situations that we find ourselves in. And I think that most people have that inherently if they have had the experience of interacting with people from different parts of the world, and people who are similar and dissimilar to them. I think where we miss out and individuals miss out tremendously if they only hang out with people who are exactly like them. So I think, in terms of having trainees get involved in health equity research and advocacy, it's really just kind of giving them the exposure to diversity that I think will facilitate that.
Thank you. And Dr. Vickrey, I have really a question that I'm very curious to know from your lecture today and from all this journey of really hard working to change through policy, but every step. But we talk about outcomes in like professional kind of like landscape, but we don't talk about outcomes as far as kind of like what to define or how to define success personally. So I'm curious to know, how do you define success in your career personally?
Yeah, so I think folks have said the professional path, it's the journey as well as, the journey is part of the success. In my own situation, I was really motivated to become a neurologist because I have a brother with severe developmental disabilities. And I saw and I always wondered, why does his brain not work? And I also saw the struggles that my parents had in dealing with the healthcare system and the educational system to get the support and resources for him. And so that was a pretty powerful inspiration for a career trying to build models that would improve the quality of care for people with chronic brain health conditions and across the board, and particularly those who are more in need or more vulnerable or more disadvantaged are the ones that we want to be sure that we're bringing to bear the study of how do we get to equity. Thank you. I would also say that mentoring is a very important part of that, because you know that you hope that those that you're mentoring will continue that journey, because obviously we still have a long way to go in the field. Um, and it's so important as a mentor that you realize what a profound effect you may have on people. Um, I wanted to give the example of sometimes I'll see a mentee from years ago, or I had a recent one write me and say, I just got promoted at my home institution. I wanted to thank you because, the experiences I had were really foundational for that. And at today's meeting, one of the organizers mentioned, well, you had suggested that I should get formal training in research. And so it's so important to realize that we have this precious opportunity, and the things that we say we may not even realize have an impact on people. But we want to keep the joy in our work and that positive influence as much as we can. Thank you.
I might also point out that I knew Lewis's mentor, Jim Grata, and he was a friend of mine. He was at the University of Texas at Houston, and he came to the Medical College of Georgia when I was a resident, second-year resident, and then I wasn't even thinking about stroke, actually. I was thinking about neurology, I was thinking about research, all that, but hadn't really thought about stroke. And he talked about it, and he talked about this new study where they're doing a special kind of treatment to try to improve the blood flow. And then he said, we have to enroll them in within 24 hours. And then everybody groans, because if you don't know about the field, obviously, you think 24 hours, what does that mean? Well, it's an impossibly long time. The brain doesn't give us 24 hours. We ended up some 20 years later finding out that the brain only is going to give us about 3, maybe 4.5 hours. So we had to adapt. We had to create new systems, new coordinated villages. I love the term that you used earlier today about coordinated villages. We had to revise our thinking entirely to be able to do the trial. And you were part of the trial, as I recall. And I was part of the review group, but I wasn't part of the clinical trial. But when I was a faculty member, brand new, when TPA came out, and we had to figure out, how are we going to use this? How are we going to get people in within 3 hours? It was a big challenge. Still is, by the way.
I think that we want to know, what does it mean to all of you to be named 2025 SEQUINS Hall of Famer? Maybe we can start with Dr. Adams, since you.
Well, I'm very proud, and I'm looking forward to next year's meeting and the subsequent meetings after that, and looking forward to seeing a new generation, if you will, come along that is, in essence, builds on the work that we all have talked about today. And we're all representative of a large number of people. And we all know that. There's a ton of people that have gone into the work that we're representing here today, and therefore we're going to have a chance to see the work of a lot of people. We hope as this becomes a yearly event that is to be looked forward to.
Thank you.
So, being in the Hall of Fame is just such an amazing concept, and it's really an honor. I feel like all I've been doing is just my work. I don't really feel like I'm doing this to accomplish something like being here and being inducted. And so it's a nice sort of maybe pat on the back for a lot of hard work, and like I said, it's really an honor.
Yeah, of course, it's a tremendous honor. And also, I reflect on the fact that when probably all of us started this work, there wasn't really such a thing as equity research. We just did things that kind of seemed like they were the right thing to look at the time. And it's so incredible to see that now it's grown into something that people recognize the importance of. And the fact that there's this meeting, the fact that there's this award is just so meaningful. It really validates all of the work that has been done in this field.
Good point.
What about you?
Yeah, I would share certainly what my colleagues have said. I'd also point out that this is a problem that shouldn't exist, right? And, I think that this society is wonderful. I hope it goes away real soon, right? I mean, because, the idea that there's inequities in society based on sex and race and ethnicity and other factors is just so incongruent with us and the evolution of humans that it's just something that really should be addressed. And unfortunately, we're going in the opposite direction currently, but hopefully we'll be back on track.
I was going to say, I think our academic lives can be so frenetic, and there's so much that you're doing as you're trying to move things forward on a daily basis. So this, recognition is a chance to reflect and pause and think about the impact that others have perceived of your contributions. And so that's a very meaningful, very, very meaningful. The other part, I saw that some of the criteria for this recognition was mentorship. And I think that that's just, again, one of the most joyous parts of what we do. Can be one of the more time consuming, but that's also, again, what makes it meaningful and important.
Thank you.
It is so great to hear that from all of you. Now, coming back to you, Dr. Adams. So you created the Reach Telestroke Network in South Carolina, and then now you're the co-director of South Carolina Alzheimer's Network. So you seem to have built a career around creating networks in communities, reaching communities affected by different diseases. So what do you think are the threads that connect your efforts, and what do you think were the biggest career obstacles that you faced, and how did you persevere through them?
Well, it's a good question, and I do appreciate the question. And we can't work on these things by ourselves. We've got to work with other people, and we hopefully will find a group of people who want part of something rather than all of nothing. And I've been saying that so much that people get tired of it. But there is such a thing as getting all of nothing simply by being too worried about who's going to get the credit. And that's something that can really get in the way of collaboration. I think the biggest challenge really is you only have so much time. You've got to make good decisions, and you've got to make them consistently. And the good decisions are, what do we work on today? What do we work on this week, this month? And how do we keep from just getting covered up with the burden of the whole process. It's a challenge. It's very satisfying when it works out. It can be painful when it doesn't work out, and it doesn't always work out. You have to get people prepared for the reality of, let's take the telestroke program. I'm reminded of what people say, that what it's like to be a fireman or fire person. Okay, you go out every day and you're called out, and instead of some big blaze where you go in and save people in the house and you're a hero, it's a cat that's in the tree, and you're going in and you pick your ladder and you get the cat out of the tree, and that sort of trivializes what it's like to play that role. But every now and then it isn't that. Every now and then it's saving the grandmother in the attic. And what it's like in telestroke is that every now and then you get to give somebody their life back. And it's pretty amazing, really. This is what it's nothing short of giving them the opportunity to live their life fully without having it threatened, either their life itself threatened or their ability to move a significant part of their body or be able to speak, etc. So that helps you get up in the middle of the night. That helps you get up the next day when you have lost sleep and so forth. But you also can't do it all the time. You've got to have people who understand that you just, you can't, you have to know how much to schedule and how much to pull back and when to pull back. So that's, again, part of the challenges.
Great answer. I am going to come back to the time management and good decisions part for my next question. But going on to Dr. Bushnell, what do you think were some of the challenges that you encountered in your career, and how did you overcome them?
Well, the biggest challenge was when I had just started enrolling participants in my trial of, actually, it's not a trial, it was observational study of women who had had a stroke and whether or not they were taking hormone therapy at the time the stroke happened. And things were going along really well with enrollment. And then the Women's Health Initiative, showing that hormone therapy was increasing the risk of stroke, had a dramatic effect. All these women stopped taking it. And I mean, that's what the evidence showed, but it really made it impossible for me to finish the enrollment that I was hoping for. And of course, I had to find something different to work on. And so I chose to work on stroke and pregnancy instead. And so that was just me kind of trying to keep my eyes open for other opportunities. And thankfully, I was able to find collaborators who were also interested at the same time. So it worked out. But it's difficult when a major finding that, and your work is sort of parallel to it, is it basically closes the door on whatever might come next. And so I tried to make lemonade and continue with doing research on women and stroke issues.
I'm glad you did, because we have so much data and so much knowledge from the work that you did. So thank you.
The last question is, what advice will you all give to your early career researchers who are passionate about research and brain health equity and are considering this path?
I would say that the research environment has always been challenging. There's never enough money. You always have to be prepared for rejection, like so many rejections, but be resilient. It's worth it. It's an incredible career. And if people are working in the equity sphere, it's really important research. I agree with Dr. Morgenstern. I wish it didn't have to be an area, and maybe one day it won't be. But for now, we need people to do that research.
Yeah, no, I think that people should work on what they are passionate about and what they enjoy, right? Because you're going to have to work on nights and weekends and do those sorts of things. So if you work on something that somebody else told you to do or that you're not really committed to, it's really hard to get that work done. So that would be the first thing. The second bit of advice is watch your priorities. And so for me and my wife, our priorities were always our family first. And, negotiating that kind of work-life balance, I think, is really important because it's pretty easy to get burned out if you're not doing what you really, really in your heart want to do.
I would perhaps add that it's important to, there's going to be challenges. There always are, no matter what you do in life. And how you respond to them is going to determine the next opportunity. And one of the pearls I would say is try to think strategically about alliances. Sometimes it's easy to think, I have to solve this myself. Sometimes you can step back and say, are there some other people who may have the same goals as me and are facing this challenge similarly, who I can ally with? And we may be able then to go to whoever the decision maker is or whatever, whoever may have control over the obstacle, and say, this is something affecting not just me or my work or my unit, but this is something that affects multiple people. And forming those alliances and problem solving are so key, whether it's at your local level at your institution or whether it's at a macro level of advocacy organizations working, with researchers' evidence to try to persuade decision makers about policy changes. It's the same principle all along the way.
The coordinated village. That's right. Amazing. Well, thank you so much for being with us today. Congratulations of becoming our first inaugural Hall of Famers in 2025 SEQUINS meeting. Thank you, Parneet, Dr. Grewal, for organizing this event. Thank you for the audio and video team for being with us, and to the city and for doing all the trip. I'm very happy to have you. And I wish you all the best in your career and on your way back as well. Be safe.
Thank you very much.